some people joining, and so while we wait a little bit for more people to join on, allow me to thank everybody for joining us this evening. It's a rather wet Singapore today, and we're welcoming people from not just Singapore, but from around the region and beyond as well. My name is Linda Wan, and I'm with the ISPE Singapore affiliate. Thank you for supporting our activities. And this is the Technical Tuesdays session, which is the overview of the Pharma Innovation Programme Singapore, known as PIPS, which will be led by Dr. Keith Carpenter, A-star Senior Fellow and Programme Director. Now, prior to his current role, Dr. Carpenter was the founding executive director of the Institute of Chemical and Engineering Sciences from 2002 to 2017. He has over 25 years industrial experience with ICI, Zeneca, AstraZeneca, and Syngenta, where he held leadership roles in technology development, corporate R&D, corporate engineering, and process development. He received his PhD in chemical engineering from the University of Leeds and is a fellow of the Institute of Chemical Engineers, Royal Academy of Engineering, Royal Society of Chemistry, and Institute of Engineers, Singapore. So without further ado, allow me to hand over to Dr. Carpenter and have a good session.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to check that you can hear me, Linda.
Yes, clear.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody for showing interest in our program. As it says on the front page here, it's a program that is administered by the Agency for Science, Technology and Research. It's funded by the Singapore government, but it covers the whole of Singapore. It covers all of the research performers in Singapore, and it's open to any pharmaceutical manufacturing company or their technology providers or people in the pharmaceutical industry to join in. So I'll show you the structure of the program a little bit later. First question, of course, is why would Singapore want to really fund research and development in pharmaceutical manufacturing? And the answer is, at least starts on this page, it's not our largest manufacturing sector, but it is one of the most valuable. It is very effective at converting very limited resources into GDP or value added as measured. You can see that the figure of value added is 65% of its output, which is the highest percentage by a long way of any of the manufacturing sectors in Singapore. It's the highest remuneration per worker as well. So it's very good at converting very limited resources, and of course Singapore is very resource constrained, into GDP. So it's one of those industries that is key to the future development of the economy, and that's why the government is really very keen to continue to support it, to support R&D, to ensure that we keep the manufacturing sector ahead of the game. The logos here are just a selection. I apologize to anyone who represents one of the companies that isn't shown. This is just a selection of the companies that are here. It's simply meant to indicate that the sector is actually driven by multinational pharmaceutical companies, but is supported by a lot of companies, that some of which are multinational, but some of which are local as well. So it's a very broad-based and thriving ecosystem and environment for us to work with. Now, these trends, I'm sure you'll recognize. These are the issues that are facing us. At the bottom, it says reference from the MTC report. That is the manufacturing, trade and connectivity. That's one of the funding sectors in RIE 2025, those of you that know the funding system here. And under the manufacturing, the trade and connectivity sector comes pharmaceutical manufacturing. And we look at each of the sectors, we look at the issues facing the sectors, and that enables us to understand where we can contribute with research and development to help the sector to continue to grow and to thrive. It also references a PIPS Future Themes workshop because we do run workshops across the whole of our members, and the members provide their experts from around the world. So our workshops are global. We were just talking at the start of, just before the meeting, that we do have a lot of very late night calls in the program because we're covering people from right across in the US, Europe, and Singapore as well. So we bring all these people together, and this is what we have as the drivers for change in the industry that we respond to in the program. This continued strong growth, which everybody, I think, knows. But at the same time, there are rapid developments in personalized medicine and changes in the way that medicines are actually being prescribed, and even the medicines that are being developed when new modalities are coming along all the time. We know that the future will require us to be much more flexible than we have in the past to handle lower volume, higher potency products. You can see that from the number of FDA registrations that are approved. I think in 2018, 2019, it was one of the first, or the first year, that the number of orphan drugs, that's the relatively small volume drugs, were actually in a higher percentage. So it shows that we're getting a lot of higher potency, lower volume drugs coming through. Resilience, we've actually had to add as an issue which most nations are now very aware of post-COVID, and the ability of the nation to respond to health crises is an important issue for us. Everybody knows that there are increasing pricing pressures on new medicines in all healthcare organizations around the world. We mentioned new modalities. We know that we need to be rapid in the way that we can respond to changes in demand, changes in customer profiles, changes in patients. And on the end, we know that the world is now much more connected than it was. So we have the ability to connect data right through, if we choose, right through from even from the patient back into the factory in future. So those are the issues that we look at as part of our forward planning. And this shows the way that the program is responding going forward. This actually, on the left, has the color code of PIPS 1 and PIPS 2. So just to update people, PIPS 1 is the first phase of the program. We're actually 2 years into the 3 years first phase, and we're planning for a 3-year second phase that will start in 2022. And on the left-hand side, we know that we have to derive maximum value from the existing assets that we have. We know that we need to make our plants more agile and more modular to be able to respond to changes and to be more flexible. And we also know that we need to accelerate product launch and bring processes through development much more quickly than we have in the past. And the red lettering there, cost, resilience, strong growth, flexibility, rapid response, and precision medicine, are from the previous slide. Those are the things that we need to respond to. And on the right-hand side are what we call the work streams, the way that we're tackling the problems. The pink shows some of the work that we started in PIPS 1, and the blue shows where we will be going with much further development in PIPS 2. So we're looking at the active ingredient to product interface. We're focused on plant operations. We look at how to develop the agile factory of the future. We look at what new managing technology platforms will be able to come through, particularly in a more modular and small volume environment. Some of the technologies may be much more suited to that kind of environment than they have been in the past. And we look at tools to accelerate process development and to accelerate process technology. And the whole thing is underpinned by sustainability, digitization, automation, modularisation, and the ability to develop things like digital twins and to do experimental design across the board. So that's the overall plan and the overall focus. Because we do have a long-term vision that we aim for all modalities eventually, but we're actually starting on the left in small molecules in PIPS 1, and the version of PIPS 2 that we're talking about will focus on small molecules. a biologics version of PIPS is under development, but won't be launched for some time yet. But we are still working on it. And the focus on small molecules is not simply because it's convenient or because it's well established, although that is a good reason, but also because it's still a significant contributor to all of the major manufacturers' revenue. And you can see of all of the manufacturers here in Singapore, a significant proportion of their revenue, apart from Roche perhaps, does still come from small molecules. So that's where we've started with the program. I'll tell you more about the membership, how it's organized, some of the work that's been done or being done in PIPS 1, and then the direction that we will be taking in PIPS 2. So this shows the kind of basic structure of the program. On the right-hand side, in the kind of top box, are the core members: GSK, MSD, Pfizer, and Syngenta. You see straight away Syngenta are not a pharmaceutical company, but they do manufacture molecules that are virtually identical to the kind of small molecules that our pharmaceutical core members actually manufacture. And they've been having to work with cost pressures, agility, and some of the issues that we need to work with in the pharmaceutical sector. They've been working with them for many, many years already. So they have quite valuable experience that they can bring, and quite a different perspective on the world. And that does bring a valuable contribution into the program. Supporting that, under the core members are the extended members: Accenture, AMF, Applied Materials, Dietrich, Esquaster, Perceptive, PSE, Siemens, and Tufsud. And there you can see these are a mixture of local SMEs and local outposts of global companies providing technology, providing equipment into the core members. And they're our extended team. And the idea is that we define projects within the work streams that we described. The research community carries out the research along with input from the global experts from the companies and from the extended members, who form project teams together. And we hope that the extended team will then be able to take on and develop the technology for implementation, or at least first implementation, in the core members' local sites. And on the left-hand side are the current research performers. We'll say we are completely agnostic as to who does the research from the program. All we require is that a significant proportion of the research is done in Singapore. You see a number of A-star institutes from ARTC, the Remanufacturing Technology Centre, Bioinformatics, High Performance Computing, Chemical Engineering Sciences, Infocom Research, Materials Research, Microelectronics. We're even developing chips for mid-IR sensors under the Institute of Microelectronics, for example, and SIFB, the Institute of Food and Biotech Innovation. They do a lot of fermentation development, a lot of genetic engineering for enzyme technology, which obviously we want in our biocatalysis program. And then we have the universities: NTU, NUS, SIT, and some of the universities from overseas that have outposts here: Cambridge and MIT under SMART. And as I said before, we're completely open to any research performers to join into the program. Whoever is best to do the work are the people that we actually support to do it. Most of our programs will have more than one performer, and they will have representatives from all of the core members in the project team as collaborators. So this slide actually shows the way that the program is organized under PIPS 1, and it illustrates two things. One is the work streams that we have: biocatalysis, continuous manufacturing, particle engineering, plant operations, and digital factory. We also have an emerging themes study under that work stream, and we have talent development across the board. And the emerging themes has been that part of the program that's been running the workshops for us to develop the future technology for PIPS 2, and we'll show you what that output is to develop the program going forward. The bottom text there also, though, shows that the companies are involved in the program intimately at all levels. In the steering board, we have representatives. We have one representative from the extended team, one representative from each core member, and then we have the funding bodies, A-Star, EDB, ESG, overseeing the steering of the whole program. The leadership team is the team that really manages the overall direction of the program. That's members of the core companies and one extended team representative, as well as the program office. And then what we call TGT is a technical governance team. That's really the technical heart of the program. These are subject matter experts from the core companies, and they oversee the allocation, the approval, the review of projects. All of our projects go through stage gate reviews, and it's the TGT that undertakes that. These really do provide a technical measure, a scientific measure of the progress and the development of the projects. And that helps us to keep the projects on track and to feedback and to help the projects where they may need to change direction or do additional things, or if they're doing very successfully, they may require extra funding to do additional things. And it's the TGT that would allocate that funding. And then we have workstream leaders. Each of the work streams, that's biocatalysis, continuous particles, and those themes, they have one representative from industry, one representative from the research community, overseeing all of the projects in the research work streams, and sharing best practice across the work streams, just to look at how we can continue to improve the way that we manage the projects and develop the program. And then right down to the project level, we have principal investigators, co-principal investigators from the research performers, usually a number of research performers in any one project. And we have extended team members, and we have subject matter experts as collaborators from the core companies. So you can see one of the key features of the program is the way that it's completely integrated across the research performers and across the membership. Now, I won't go through all of these in detail because in phase one, in the technology, we have something like 22 or so projects. Biocatalysis, we have 2, looking at enzyme development and a rapid microfluidics-based way of doing screening. And the enzyme development covers bioinformatics, database searching, computer modeling, as well as physical enzyme engineering as well. We have single-site heterogeneous catalysts, how to make those, how to make homogeneous catalysts heterogeneous so that we can use them in flow systems. And that's been very successful. It completed in September 2020, but has now moved on to a second phase of the program. Developing multi-step processes in pharma is actually our first step into the kind of automated lab of the future. It's an automatic chemistry plant, really. It runs itself. It's a 2-stage, 2 reaction stages followed by a separation. It has a Bayesian optimization algorithm where it will optimize on whatever parameters you set, and it will then feed back to the inputs and just rerun the experiments. And over a number of days, it will run a whole series of experiments completely on its own and home in on the optimum, depending upon what you've defined as what you want to optimize on. Gas liquid heterogeneous catalysis, again, taking technology from really from the experts that we have in the petrochemical sphere, but applying that kind of technology to trickle bed reactions, particularly for hydrogenations, but looking at other things as well in flow, in complex organic synthesis. And then a couple of technologies that really do lend themselves to modularisation and smaller volume that have been looked at before, but now maybe the opportunity to develop them. That's in photochemistry and electrochemistry. You'll see that scalable photochemistry there, developing reactor systems and developing new chemical systems, new chemistry. The NTU group have already developed some new polysulfur chemistry for that. And the reactor development is going on in NUS. And then projects 8, 9, and 10 are all together as 4 projects, but in one program. developing electrochemistry cell based on current cells that you can actually buy, but how to modify them, how to develop the chemistry, and how to fit them into cells that we can easily adapt and modify for the future. And then we have, again, heterogeneous catalysis for cross-coupling reactions, which is a development of the previous heterogeneous catalysis program. Under Digital Factory, we have novel PAT sensors. We have a whole program on what the digital future will be that's providing the platform for phase 2. We have data to knowledge, which is really how to capture data from automated development experiments and how to really capture that data and how to convert it into generalized knowledge that can be shared across the whole of development and into manufacturing. How we can do actually smart maintenance rather than necessarily predictive maintenance, because we don't have very much data on which to do predictions because we don't let things fail. But how can we use all the information that we have from the process to make our approach to maintenance and preventing breakdowns to be much smarter? One project in particle engineering, which forms the basis of our new program in the drug product to interface for phase 2, and then a whole series of plant operations focused on cleaning, on plant turnaround, membrane separation for difficult streams to use for solvent recovery, probe-based spectroscopy, FBG sensors. That's actually how to build sensors into glass-lined equipment to understand when the glass is under stress or is damaged, to enable us to pick that up before we have a failure. And then even looking at how to do automated detection in image capture to enable us to do automated inspection of plant to enable faster turnaround without people having to go inside or look inside the plant themselves. And I won't go through these in any detail. These are simply some of the outputs that we've had. We've transferred some enzymes to members. We've developed some novel catalysts that are heterogeneous, truly heterogeneous, and do have activity. The multi-step process in pharma is up and running now. We started to develop the photochemistry and started to develop the pilot scale system. The drug product interface work has produced some particles of real actives and excipients combined that have gone off to the members for testing. We've developed a whole series of protocols and ways of approaching understanding how to do plant cleaning and turnaround, including sharing best practice. And we've developed some membrane technologies that can do waste volume reduction for streams that would otherwise go to incineration and can look at solvent recovery. So those are the things that we've already done and had outputs from under PIPS 1. Now this slide actually looks at where we're going in PIPS 2. And there are really 3 key areas here. They're listed as 4, but so we've got tools to accelerate design and manufacturing processes. We've got the active ingredient to product interface, and then we've got agility, and that's through automation and through other measures to make our ability, or to give us the ability to respond much better to changes in portfolio, particularly for low volume API. Sustainability has always been a key theme for us, and that's even more so under PIPS 2. That really underpins a lot of what we're doing, and we're also here looking at developing tools or building on those tools that are already available to measure the impact of the technologies from the program, but also to support project and process selection in development. And in the background then, how do we design the factory of the future to be able to handle more highly potent materials? So you'll see we're back to the diagram that we showed before, where we had some pink and some blue. Here, we're really focused on the blue part, what will be carried forward from PIPS 1 that will be developed into PIPS 2, and what will be new under PIPS 2. So in the active ingredient product interface, we're focused on tablets, direct compression, going into continuous direct compression directly from API, how to maintain and develop stable suspensions. And we know that to underpin that, we need a very strong programming particle fundamentals. And we have problem statements that describe the real problems in those areas that we will be taking out to the research community for them to respond in the second half of this year. In the Agile Factory, we're looking at the digitization, we're looking at automated QC, QA labs and automated process development labs. We're working a lot with how to develop digital twins and what the pilot plant of the future would actually look like. Under improving current manufacturing, we're looking at visual inspection, cleaning protocols, sensors, PAT systems, and membranes, and we'll be running further workshops to fill in some of the blank space that appears in that program going forward. The manufacturing technology platforms that we're bringing through, we have continuous processing, we have electrochemistry we mentioned, photochemistry we mentioned, catalyst modules based on some of the catalysis research we've done in phase 1 and some of the enzyme systems that would form a basis of further development of supported enzyme systems for phase 2. And then on the right-hand side, process development, process technology accelerated by developing tools for sustainable manufacture and to accelerate how we do process development and process design. And as I said before, these are underpinned by cross-cutting themes of sustainability, digitization, automation, modularisation, and experimental design and modelling. I won't go into any more details about the problem statements that fit under those, but if anybody has any questions or any interests, we will be publishing those problem statements in the near future for the research community to respond to anyway. So they will be public knowledge and anyone can get involved or find out what's there. I should mention that we're also interested in talent development. It's obviously not a research program in its per se, but it is important to us. Developing a factory of the future is all very well, but we do need to have the workforce of the future that can make it work and enable it to run. So we're focused currently on 3, as our first step, 3 focus areas: management and integrity of big data, data analytics, continuous manufacturing, and PAT, and 3 levels of training required: basic exposure to existing staff and current students, some exposure to staff and users, practitioners, people who need to solve real-life problems, and then the highest level of training for people who would be super users or experts within the company. And we've developed an outline of training requirements. And just to say, our first training program has been awarded to Singapore Poly, and that will be launched this month in big data, data analytics, and data management. So just by the way, I did mention before, we'll be working on the problem statements and taking them out to the community for PIPS 2 in the second half of this year, and they will be ready for operation in September 22. Meanwhile, we'll continue to complete and extend some of the programs and projects that I mentioned that we already have under PIPS 1 right through to September 22. And the whole thing really is about bringing everyone together in a community. Everybody works together in the program. We like to see it as putting all the parts of a jigsaw puzzle together, that the puzzle isn't really whole without all of the parts working together. We know that our next phase will really be one of bringing in a relatively small number of new core members, but primarily bringing in many more extended team members as well, so trying to extend the outreach of the program. So that's all that I wanted to cover, but I'm very happy to answer any questions or to take any comments that anybody would like to raise. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carpenter. We would like to open the floor now for questions. So please post them in the chat function at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or please do feel free to unmute and ask your question. We're just putting up a slide here if any of you would like to contact the PIPS program staff, and Mr. Chan Junhua is actually on this on the chat right now as well, if you'd like to have any questions for him. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, Keith. Thanks for the nice talk. This is Nikki, and I'm calling from AbbVie Singapore. I'd like to ask, you had mentioned that there might be extensions of PIPS into the biologics applications. Can you share more about that?
Yes, I can, Nikki. It's something that we've, in many ways, always wanted to do. And we have been considering it alongside the development even of PIPS-1 that goes back to 2016, even back to 2014, we were talking about starting it. But we weren't really in a very strong position to develop the program, primarily because many of the local players were still getting their plants up and running. It was not quite as easy to define what the first steps in the program would be. So it's been a bit delayed, but we're starting now with, in the next quarter, we'll be running an initial workshop. And that workshop will bring together people from the industry that want to get involved. We have a number of people already agreed to get involved in that workshop, and that will help us to start to outline what the key drivers and the key areas for research under biologics as a first step would actually be. So if you are interested, Nikki, and you let us know. It's actually EDB that helped to coordinate that workshop for us, but we also have one of the directors in A-Star who works with EDB on that. And if you let us know, we can always pass your contact on to her, and she can involve you in the conversation if you want to be involved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question, Nikki. We have a question from Jong Hyuk Lim, who asks, just disappeared. Do you think biopharmaceutical manufacturing plant can be digital twinned in the future? Why he's asking is that its system is so complicated.
Well, if we're thinking about small molecule pharmaceuticals, we're thinking about that as a first step. And our answer is emphatically yes, it can. The challenge is, of course, what level of complexity the digital twin actually goes to. And the key really is to be able to choose the level of complexity to match the significance or the importance of whatever it is that you're actually, that part of the plant you're actually modeling. But we know from other work that incredibly complex systems can be digitally twinned. One of the research organizations even has a digital twin of Jurong Island at a certain level. So yeah, I think the answer is yes, it can. The question really is, can it to the level of detail that's required really to make a difference? And that's really what we're working on right now. We believe that it can, but it is research. So we currently it's a work in progress, but at least we have made a start.
Thank you. And a question from Mark Kuo, who asks, who owns the PIP program? How will all the information in PIPS be shared within the industry?
Okay, so the program is jointly funded by government and by the core companies and by the extended members to different levels. So the technology that's developed is owned jointly by the companies that are members and by the research institutes or universities that carry out the work. There will be some that is shared with the community, but that is the technology that can be put in the public domain. Otherwise, the members, the extended team members, are the people that we expect to be able to commercialize the technology if the core companies themselves don't. So essentially, it belongs to the members.
Okay, thank you. A kind of question from Pushkar. Firstly, he says, very informative presentation, Keith. ISPE has several special interest groups aligned with PIPS Phase 2 themes. Question to anyone who wants to answer, really. How can both PIPS and ISPE globally gain from some sort of partnership?
Well, I can give my take on that, Linda, if that's okay,
Sure.
and then maybe throw it open. Yeah, so one thing that is really very important to us, and I hope you can see that from the presentation, is that the work that we do is relevant. It's solving real problems, and we're solving real problems in the right way, and the solutions that we come out with can be implemented. We have very good feedback and very good links with our core members and extended team, but they are only, in a sense, a limited part of the community. So what would be really helpful for PIPS itself would be to be able to share, what we have as our outline plans, what people think of the problem statements that we're publishing, because they're going to the open literature anyway. They go out, we actually make calls based on those problem statements. So, are these the kind of problems that your special interest groups actually think or believe are the problems that they would like to see tackled? And do they have suggestions as to how they might be tackled, and who in the research community we might go and ask to tackle them? So that kind of feedback or comment on our problem statements and our kind of direction would be really, really helpful to us.
Thank you. Yeah, certainly we have not only the special interest groups, but also the various communities of practice where, there's a lot of discussion on various current issues and challenges and how to tackle them. Pushkar, do you have any comment?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I think you're. Yeah, thanks, Keith, again for the session. Yeah, I mean you're right, because there's a lot going on in ISP within Singapore as well as globally on most of the topics PIPS is interested in, and since these are global problems, really, it would be really helpful for both the parties to come together. Because I've been part of PIPS in some capacity in the past. So I know the kind of talent that Singapore ecosystem has and the kind of solution they can come up, and it can really help globally if there is integration. Then again, the modalities need to be worked out, and I'm probably not the best person to figure out how to.
And also good to have the input from the international community too. As from this session, we have people from Korea, India, Thailand, as well as Singapore attending. I'm sure that, and also even from Europe, that there will be lots of views and input to the discussions. In fact, Dr. Carpenter will be actually hosting a session in our conference in August, on the 27th of August itself, where there will be a panel discussion on technology. And we welcome you to check out the program, which will be announced very shortly. There will be some very interesting viewpoints from Singapore and also from around the region when we have it live streamed. Are there any other questions? I think Mark Quo has another question. This PIP activity seems similar to some programs in US and recently in EU called Campus Biotech Digital. Will Singapore PIPS be tying in with other regional players in the field?
Well, actually, not necessarily regional. We do talk to similar consortia and similar research performers globally. So actually, to a limited extent now that COVID has happened. So the last meetings that we had with some of these other consortia was actually in 2019. Yeah, so there are a number of them. This Campus Biotech, which there's, but actually more than that, there is a CMAC in the UK. There is SSPC in Ireland. There's RCPE in Austria. A whole range of them. Even to FDA. FDA has a new technology group. So we do talk to them. We currently don't have any direct one-to-one collaborations with them simply because COVID has got in the way. We were at one point talking about how to share researchers and because most of the other consortia tend to be more kind of university based than necessarily we are. So they're interested in sharing students and postdocs and that kind of thing. So yeah, we are aware of them and we have talked to them. Our only issue is that right now it's a bit difficult for us to have exchanges until the COVID situation has settled down. But we fully do intend to do that. So thanks to Mark for that comment. That's very helpful.
He's just posted up a link to that as well,
Yeah.
by Bio Mario. So are there any other questions? This is your last opportunity to pose your queries. And in the meantime, we've also put up a link to a survey. If you could spend a few minutes just to help us with feedback after this session, we would very much appreciate it. You just need to click on the form link that's been given and then just submit later. Just one more notice before, while I'm waiting for any additional questions. We have another Technical Tuesday this month, which will be next week. This will be in the morning time though, from 8:30 to 9:30 Singapore time, as it's being led by Timothy Watson, the Executive Director and Team Leader for CMC Advisory Office, Pfizer USA. So that will be evening his time, morning for us on the 25th of May. And he'll be addressing COVID challenges and opportunities for inspections and regulatory approvals. So rather a different tack, but also very timely in terms of what's going on in terms of authorizations and approvals. So please do join us for that. If you'd like to register, you can just let us know. And I think you've already been receiving our notices on it. If there's no more questions, this is we'll give it a few seconds. If no one has any more questions, then we will allow Dr. Carpenter to get on with his evening. I know you've got one more call happening. At least you can have a little break before the next one.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And thanks everyone for your comments and questions. It's been very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we will be posting this session up on our YouTube channel, if that's okay. We want to thank you very much for your time this evening and for sharing the PIPS program with us. And to everyone that's joined us this evening, thank you all for joining, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. In the meantime, everyone, stay safe, take care, and have a good evening.